Welcome, fellow Stardust. Are you ready for a scare? I see you've come back for more. If you're new here, buckle up. And thank you all for joining me today. My name is DeRay, lover of all things dark, creepy, and weird. Today's film review will be on comedy fantasy horror Leprechaun.
See that? The buckles on me shoes? Why, I'm a leprechaun!
Here's the story of a man who steals Lubden the leprechaun's 100 gold coins while on vacation in Ireland. Lubden follows him home, but the man manages to lock Lubden in a crate held by a four-leaf clover. 10 years later, he's accidentally released by Ozzy and goes on a murder spree in search of his gold. So I finally watched this film for the first time, and I'm sad that it took me this long. It's a horrible film, but Warwick Davis keeps you hooked. He and Jennifer Aniston really carry this film. Without the two of them, the franchise wouldn't be what it is today. This was Jennifer Aniston's first film, and she did Friends right afterwards. Even though Jennifer typically plays Rachel in everything that she does do a good job of it. The writing is horrible in this film, but she's able to distract us from it, at least just a little bit. Warwick Davis was actually still under contract with George Lucas. He had played the first Ewok, which they actually designed after Warwick's dog, and Warwick would continue to play different roles in the Star Wars franchise. But luckily, George Lucas signed off on letting Warwick play this creepy little creature. Warwick also starred as a protagonist in Willow and was having a hard time finding more movie roles after that. So when he was approached about Leprechaun, he was eager to play an antagonist. You'll probably recognize Mark Holton from Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Gacy, but he has a ton of credits, and some of my childhood favorites are A League of Their Own and Little Giants. He also returns in the 8th installment of Leprechaun in Leprechaun Returns, and unfortunately, he is the only returning character. In a 2014 interview, Jennifer Aniston said that she was embarrassed to be a part of the film after she heard so many people talking so much crap about the film, which is just absolutely tragic because it would have been so great to have her come back in 2018. On IMDb, it says that she wasn't approached about doing Leprechaun 8, but I don't blame the filmmakers because of her public criticism over the film. But so many critics tore this film up, even going as far as to say that this film was a waste of Kodak film. So I understand her wanting to distance herself from the film, but it's just too bad that she's not cool enough to not care about what the naysayers have to say. Critics said the dialogue, direction, and acting were terrible, that there was no humor, and wondered why this film was even made. And they weren't totally wrong. Like I said, Jennifer Aniston and Warwick really carry this film. And there's a ridiculous scene where the leprechaun is grabbing at Jennifer Aniston's leg from underneath the pickup truck, and she thinks it's the guy that she's crushing on and is okay with it. Who would be okay with that? No one. Even though critics had nothing good to say about this film, it cost just under $1 million to make and made just over $2 million in the box office. To date, it's earned over $9 million and has a cult following with folks who are eager for a Leprechaun 9. I had plans of only watching a few of these, but it looks like I'm gonna probably end up watching all 8 of them. So far, I've seen 1, 2, 5, and 8. The kid is played by Robert Gorman, and he's actually not too bad. He also has a ton of credits, and some of my other childhood favorites are Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead and Rookie of the Year. Mark Jones already had a career in television and wanted to break into filmmaking, so he thought that making a low-budget horror film would be his way in. And it's definitely low budget and pretty low effort on his part. His inspiration was literally a Lucky Charms commercial and the film Critters. He actually had a contract with Lucky Charms to be featured in the film, but when Lucky Charms saw the final product, they reneged on their contract. So while Mark Jones set out to make a straight horror film, Warwick was bringing his own flair to the role and was able to convince Mark Jones to make it more of a comedy horror. So they went a bit light on the horror, but when it was done, producers still wanted it to be a little bit more gruesome, and so they had to do reshoots to make the kill scenes a little bit more bloody, and even still, it's not that gruesome. Producers wanted to appeal to an older teenage audience and have something comparable to Freddy Krueger, but that's definitely not the type of film they got. It's got more of a Casper or Gremlins vibe to it, and it feels more like a family movie than it does a comedy horror. It's definitely not scary, and even though it has an R rating, children would enjoy this film, and the violence in it isn't too bad. It's nothing more than what they would see on TV or a video game. The film was shot in 1991 in Santa Clarita, California at Valencia Studios, the same studios where Terminator 2 Judgment Day was shot. Leprechaun started production soon after Terminator 2 had wrapped. The outdoor scenes were shot at Big Sky Ranch in Simi Valley, California, where the Waltons in Little House on the Prairie were shot. Despite the film's really tight budget, I really liked the set design, and I've liked the set design on all the films that I've seen so far. They are very detail oriented, and it really sets the tone. Warwick's makeup is done by Gabe Bartalos, and it took about 3 to 4 hours to do every day and about 40 minutes to take off. Gabe had several mock-ups of the makeup design, but the producers were pushing for something more grotesque, so we had to come up with a few different versions, and they've kept the same makeup for all of these years, and Gabe has worked on most of the films. Unfortunately, Warwick stopped after Leprechaun 6. After having kids, he said he saw horror films in a new light, and he didn't want his kids to see him in that light, but he did go on to say that he might consider coming back to horror films after his kids turn 18. As far as a rating for this film and this film alone, I would have to give it 2.5 rainbow skulls, and those are basically all for Jennifer and Warwick. It's hard to ignore the terrible writing, the blocking, and even the lighting. You know, I mentioned I liked the set design, but the one thing that I really didn't like though was the choice of using the red and blue to paint the house, because again, nobody's going to use those colors to paint their house. But it is a fun one to watch, and I would encourage anybody to watch it and the entire franchise like I'm doing. I was basically laughing the entire way through, and probably at points where it wasn't supposed to be funny, but it was just that ridiculous. The continuity is off, some scenes are being reused for another film. It's just a hot mess, but it is so entertaining. Well, thank you again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please share it and hit the like button, and let me know in the comment section which Leprechaun film is your favorite. And I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Claws and Crime, and next week I'll be back with another film review and spooky story narration. And if you want to join the Rainbow Fright Freight Train, go ahead and hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell. That way you'll get notified every Thursday and Friday when I post more videos like this. Alright y'all, peace.